Hey, friends, let's have a listen to what Larry Taylor and Stuart Best had to say about these forest fires. That I have the same feeling about it, but this is their take on it. So listen in.
We're expecting it even larger than a 911, a second 911, but on a greater scale. And possibly that some of this is leading up to that. America's being smoked. I mean, we got smoke screens going crazy.
Yeah,
well, even in California. Yeah,
let's get into that.
Yeah, matter of fact, Stuart, I don't know if you've seen the latest. After we had talked, I saw a report that says they're monitoring the temperatures around California and some of these areas, and they say there's some areas sometimes for no reason, there's a 14 to 15 to 16 degree rise suddenly in the atmosphere over California.
Yeah, let's get into that a little bit. See if I can find what I've got on it. Here's what the people out there, and some of them are witnesses. Extreme temperatures in the fires. In other words, a normal house fire, they claim, gets to about 900 degrees. But these fires are melting steel, rock, ceramics, and glass, which requires almost 3,000 degrees. There are no storms around. Then all of a sudden they get these high winds. They see blue flashes in the sky or blue lightning. And the fires ignite almost instantly, and they burn everything to a fine ash. Firefighters, I'm making some notes here, say they've never seen anything like it. And here's what one guy discovered. The burn areas that are marked where they've burned already mark exactly where Agenda 21 and 30 had already said they need to remove those houses for other projects. Now, if you do some research on this, what they're seeing, what they're watching, and what's happening fit the description of laser weapons or particle beam type weapons. Now, you remember that Donald Trump said fire and fury, right?
Yeah.
Are you talking about Kim?
Yeah.
That's what they're watching out there. Fire and fury. There was a lady sitting on a porch, she said, as a witness. She said it was perfectly calm, and then all of a sudden they had like 70, 80 mile an hour winds. Well, that is indicative of these particle beam type weapons and how they operate, and they warm the ground before they hit. So I'm wondering if this could be tied to not only they're using it for Agenda 21 and 30 to rewild, and people don't believe that. I got the maps. I got a movie out. I put a documentary out called Unfriendly Fire. It was about the United Nations Agenda 21 and how they intend to totally rewild the entire United States and force people into cities. They're doing it a little bit at a time. Do you remember William Cohen when he was Secretary of Defense? He said they have the technology to make and steer hurricanes, cause severe earthquakes, volcanic eruptions. So it makes you wonder if this isn't Illuminati controlled and they're fine-tuning everything. If you look at the pictures, they don't make any sense at all. You can have an entire house totally flattened, nothing is left, and yet a tree next to it, its leaves are still green. Or you can have a house next to a house, and the house next to it is standing, the tiles on the roof aren't burned, there's no burn marks on the walls. This has got to be some sort of a weapon that they're using. And I was trying to figure out what, and I'd like your opinion on this. what would be the reason they'd be doing this to California? Because California is really ultimately far left. However, they are in a bid to secede from the Union.
Yeah.
Would this be punishment?
I don't have a clue, but one thing I do know, Stuart, when I was in law enforcement, I saw a lot of barn and home fires and factory fires. I've seen a lot of hot fires. And everywhere somebody was inside there, they were always, you couldn't recognize them. I mean, they were cooked flesh. But listen, they're saying these fires that they're having trouble IDing people because there's nothing left but bones. Bones.
Yes.
And do you know, flash fires and forest fires and brush fires don't produce only bones. You're talking almost Sodom and Gomorrah to do something like that.
Yeah. And obviously the Lord is allowing it, and I don't know how many times California has given the finger to the Lord, and I've often wondered, well, when's he going to break it off and send it into the ocean? But maybe there's more to do here and more going on than we realize, and I'm wondering, you remember Michio Kaku on, I think it was Fox News or CNN, and they actually had to correct him. The lady, he was talking about this huge laser weapon that they have. He let that out, and she corrected him immediately and said, alleged. It's alleged.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. Well, he let the cat out of the bag. They have these weapons. They are in outer space. They are using them on hurricanes. And I'm convinced from the evidence that I'm seeing here, they're also using them out in California. And this is the fire and the fury.
Yeah, I don't think you heard it, but you heard us talk about it, Augusto and myself, on your show. I reminded Augusto how that someone he interviewed named Bob Fletcher was an insider, and he knew about the particle beam weapons that are in space, and he was really concerned that they would ever turn it towards the Earth and try to work with it or experiment with it. He was very concerned. His name was Bob Fletcher, and he said, I know about them. I know they're there.
Well, you remember in the movie that Steven Seagal played in called, what was the name of that? Something 2.
Under Siege 2?
Under Siege 2, yes. And they had a laser weapon.
Yeah.
That this guy had given the technology to build it and all that, and they had launched it, and he took it over as a madman. But anyway, one of the things he first did was to aim it at China and I don't know if it was an arms factory or what it was, but anyway, took it out with this weapon. Well, you may remember not very long ago, maybe 4, maybe 5 years, that China had a very mysterious fire, and people said that they saw blue lights and stuff.
Yeah.
Do you remember that? That was maybe 5, 6 years ago.
Yeah, I remember that because there were rumors on the internet that was actually a chemical weapons or a Chinese weapons secret arsenal, and something happened, and that literally was like a volcano when that actually lit up and went off, and they said it foamed, that mountain foamed.
Yeah, we have that verse of scripture. He maketh fire to come down out of heaven in the sight of men. That's in the book of Revelation, chapter 13. And I'm beginning to think that it's right on time, actually, that this may be that they're practicing with it, and they're fine-tuning it. And, what's interesting about all this, they tell an area to evacuate when there's no fire.
Yeah.
And then when they come back, all their houses are burned up. So maybe the rich men are being polite by getting, telling them to vacate first before we're going to burn you down. But it just makes you wonder exactly. And getting back to Vegas, George Soros, by the way, made $73 million from that massacre. And the guy that runs that MGM sold 80% of his stock just before that event took place.
Well, they
so,
do.
Folks, yeah, you're being played, folks. These people have technology now, and they're going to bring it out into the open, and I think that's what we're kind of watching out there in California. Too many people are now reporting what they're actually seeing and relating it back. In fact, they're even digging up stuff and reports from science about how these particle beam weapons work, about what the telltale signs are, et cetera, and it matches. So they're getting ready to do this in front of humanity. And as Jesus Christ said, who can make war with the beast? In other
So there you go, folks. There's their analysis. If you look at close at some of them pictures, you'll understand what they're talking about. Those fires and the heat involved, and then the surrounding things that are not touched, does not make sense. It's almost an impossibility. Have a good one. We'll talk to you later. The Old Marine One Vaughn on October 4th, 2017. God bless. Hug the kids. Hug the wife. God is the only way to heaven. Jesus Christ is the only key to heaven. So have a good one, friends. Bye-bye.